I'm Ann LeClaire, and we're here exploring some of the freshest local products in San Mateo County. Today we're with Dee Harley at Harley Farms. And Dee, thank you so much for hosting us today. We see your family of goats all around us. Tell us a little bit about how you started Harley Farms.
Well, it was a little bit by default, really, Anne. I started with only 6 goats, and we lived in this, well, what was a derelict cow dairy farm, which was originally built in 1910. But as the farm started closing in the late 40s along the coast, you know, because the dairy industry was huge along the coast, this farm closed as well. So it remained closed for about 50 years. And then I've got these 6 goats and started to bring it back to life again.
With 6?
With 6. So the 6 became 10, 10 became 15, and so on and so on. And now we have just under 200 goats, and they're all related to the original 6 of 21 years ago now.
Now, did you have a background in dairy farming of any kind, or how did this all evolve?
No, I didn't. I didn't know anything about them, but when I look back at it, I really learned how to look after the goats very deeply because I just had the 6. So I just grew with the herd and learned as I went through the years with them, and it's just the management has just stayed the same.
And how many goats do you have now?
We have just under 200.
Wow.
All of these goats have recently had their babies. It's kidding season on the farm. It's spring. And we've had just over 210 babies so far.
Oh my gosh.
And we have maybe another 40, 45 to go.
Wow. And then what happens with those when they're born? Are they immediately put out to pasture with the parents, or?
No, we take the babies away immediately and we milk the mothers and feed the milk back to the babies. A lot of the goats have multiple births, so we want to make sure that they've had enough to eat. A lot this year had triplets, and we had 3 sets of quads, which is very unusual, very unusual, all extremely healthy, and the weather has been on our side this year. It's been so beautiful. So the goats have been able to come out on the grass, and we've been able to have a lot of space for the babies to grow up.
So are you pretty much up all night in March and April? Is that your
Yeah,
delivering?
the first ones, yes. We've had a lot of late nights and long days right now because we're feeding so many babies. So we get extra help from the high school. People come and help feed the babies at night, which is it's incredible and such a time saver.
Now you do all this obviously to make your incredible cheese, but how many gallons of milk would a goat produce in a year's time?
Well, we milk them twice a day or every 12 hours, and each goat produces about a gallon of milk.
Wow.
Per day, so half in the morning, half at night, and that produces around a pound of cheese.
Wow.
So we can make upwards of 200 pounds of cheese a day.
200 pounds
Yes,
of cheese
once
a
they're
day?
all milking, yes, yeah.
And is that in one shift? Okay, let go of the buckle.
I'm good.
Is that in one shift, or is that, I mean, do you?
Well, we make cheese every day, so the evening milk joins the morning milk, and we make cheese that day, and sometimes we make it twice a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us about the types of cheese that you produce. I know you have multiple.
We do.
At this point.
We make 4 styles: feta, full milk ricotta, chèvre, and fromage blanc. All are made in traditional methods. And then we add flavors to those. We might add dried apricots or cranberries, dried tomatoes, herbs, chives, dill, things like that. So we have maybe 30 or 32 different flavors together with the 4 styles. And we've just started making an aged cheese.
Oh,
so
nice.
That's going to be our new product coming into this year.
And how long does that get aged before it's?
At least 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah, oh, so good. The nuances of the milk and the integrity of the milk really come through on the flavor. We're really excited about it.
Now you decorate the cheeses in interesting ways, right?
Yeah.
You grow your own flowers, I know, over there. And
We
how
do.
does that work?
We use a lot of edible flowers on the cheese, and we also use herbs as well. So we grow whatever we can. We tend to grow here on the farm because it complements everything of what we're doing. We're a farmstead dairy, so it means we only make cheese from the milk we produce from our own animals. We don't get outside milk coming here. So we're in control of everything, the flavor of the food that they eat, the grasses that they eat, and so it's a very consistent, mild flavor. That comes through on the milk, so therefore the cheese is then very mild. So anything that we grow in the environment that they're living in complements that flavor. It's very subtle, but nevertheless there.
Now, if you're having over 200 babies every year and you already have a herd of over 200 goats, how do you thin it out? You obviously you don't have room for 400 or 600 goats.
No, we'd have thousands by now, I think. Well, we sell all the males. We don't keep any of the male kids, so they get sold. And then we only keep the females from the better milkers. And every couple of years, we'll cull out some of the older goats. We have a retirement home at our next door neighbor's Patty's. She's got, I think, 16 goats over there, and every year she gets 2 or 3 Harley. And
the old goats, so to
the
speak,
old
right?
goats, yeah, and she loves looking after them. So she has a lot of pasture, so they get to eat that. And I do find homes for most of the milkers that we retire from the farm, and then they just get replaced by the babies that are born that year.
Now, it seems to me, is one of your cheeses seasonal? Is there one that you sell that's more seasonal than the others? Most are available year-round, right?
Yep, most are available all year. The ricotta, though, we can't make from early November through when the first babies are born. Okay. The makeup of the milk gets really, really fatty, and it's very difficult to coagulate in going into the late fall and early winter. And then, of course, as the babies are born and milk is flowing again, then we make ricotta again. It's the best of the year. It's so good.
So for people who want to come out and enjoy all this, experience it firsthand, what about tours? What do you have?
Well, it's so popular right now because of the babies. I mean, everybody loves a baby goat. Although, I don't know. There's so many of them right now. I don't know.
But everyone knows
yeah, it's a fantastic destination for anybody right now. They can drive down or up the coast and come and visit us. They can sign up for an organised farm tour, which is an hour and a half to 2 hours long, where you really kind of get behind the scenes of the way we run our farm and meet the goats and see where they're milked in the cheese making room, and of course see all the baby goats, which is, you know, the draw, of course.
And are the tours on particular days, Dee?
Yeah, they're on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. You can sign up online very easily, and they go through the first week of December.
And then on the tour, what happens? Other than looking at the goats, what do they see? What do people see?
Well, they go into the milking parlour, so we explain about how we milk, and basically look at the day in the life of a goat that lives on our farm, and why the milk is so good, and why we have to treat the animals so in a certain way, the types of animals, the interesting facts about the goats, and then of course end up in the cheese making, where cheese is always being made, so people are very intrigued in that space, just because it makes sense when they've come out, met the animals, seen the babies, understand the flow of the milk. It kind of puts the pieces together. People are very appreciative actually of the opportunity to be able to see something that's working all the time, and meet some of the people that work on the farm, who are just as important as the animals that live here too.
So what about buying the cheese? If someone isn't, I mean, do you have a tasting room, right? And when is that open?
Yeah, we are open 7 days a week, because of course we're here making cheese 7 days a week, so we might as well be. And we have the old horse corrals, actually. We've turned into a cheese shop, so all of our cheeses are available for tasting. We're open 10 to 5 every day.
10 to 5, great.
And we tend to get quite busy on the weekends. And we also offer farm dinners, which are held once a month in the hayloft above the dairy. And people again can sign up online and find out any information they want to about the farm online.
Well, Dee, thank you so much for hosting us
You're
today.
so
we know
welcome.
how busy you are during the birthing season, but it's an amazing spot.
Thank you so much.
To visit.
Appreciate you coming. Thanks.
I'm Ann LeClaire. We're here to look at more of San Mateo County's fresh local produce. It's as fresh as it gets. Today we're fortunate to be on this beautiful farm owned by the Giustis, and I'm with John Giusti, the owner of Giusti Farms. Thank you so much for having us out on this spectacular day. You tell us, I think your family's been in farming for a few generations, or?
Yeah, my grandfather started farming on the coast here in 1922, and my father started in 1949.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been around for a while.
So will you tell us what you grow here? You have an enormous amount of acreage, I can see.
Yeah, we raise Brussels sprouts, artichokes, peas, beans, fava beans, and a few other bunch vegetable crops.
Now, you have 3 farms on the coast side, is that right, altogether, or more
Yes,
than that, 4?
yeah, I have, you're right. We have a couple farms south of Half Moon Bay and one almost right in town.
So how many acres do you have altogether that you're growing on?
About 350.
Wow. Yeah. And so right now is artichoke season, right?
Yes.
And what kind of a crop do you produce of artichokes this time of year?
We raise a perennial, the old artichoke, the old stock artichoke plants that come from root stock that came from generations ago, and unlike what you'll see sometimes in the store, they have a new type of artichokes that's an annual crop, and I believe ours are superior quality.
So how can you differentiate between the two? I've heard you say that before, and I'm sure locals want to buy yours or local artichokes. How can you tell the difference?
Well, one thing is that they have thorns. The old stock have thorns, and the leaves are thicker than the annual artichoke leaves, and that's why they're better, I think, is there's more edible portion on the artichoke.
Well, that's good to know. And then for Brussels sprouts, another favorite. How much of that do you produce every year, would you say?
Well, Brussels sprouts have been probably our backbone of our farm here. Wow. Where we do about 170 acres this year.
Wow. And then, John, do you sell your produce at any farmers markets, or how would people go about finding your produce?
Yeah, we sell at the local coastside farmers market, and then my sister goes over to the Palo Alto farmers market and does that one. And we also sell to several of the local grocery stores here in town, Cunha's, New Leaf, and some of the fruit stands carry our artichokes as well.
Nice. So it's a family business. You've stayed in the business. What is it about it that has kept you in the business as a third generation?
Well, yeah, I really have grown to love being outdoors and being out on especially on a day like today, a beautiful day. That's it, and it's very rewarding producing a crop, starting off with young plants like this and seeing them to fruition when we finally harvest them. It's very rewarding.
So what's an average day like for you? I mean, what time do you start? It's a tough job, I know.
Yeah, I'm not too early. I usually get here about 6:45, and all the workers start about 7 o'clock in the morning, and most of the time I get home about 6 o'clock at night.
Is that 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
Oh, six days a week. I try to take my Sundays. I try to take those off.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. So, what's your biggest challenge, would you say, as a farmer in today's modern world? Anything?
Boy, labor issues, water. There seems like every year has its own unique challenges. There's several of them out there. I would say those two being the biggest.
Right. So best months to buy artichokes? I know you mentioned it's a spring crop. When are they at their best, and when is it the best deal to buy them?
Yeah, usually the artichokes are traditionally a spring crop. We get our biggest production in the spring, so they'll start coming on in March, April, and May are the big months for artichokes. But we do, with the perennial crops, we do have artichokes year-round. We harvest artichokes every week of the year.
And I know we've had chefs out and taking tours of your farms, and are restaurants able to buy from you directly? Is that, or not so much, or do you go through a distributor normally? Or
yeah, I do sell to a select few restaurants around the coast side here too, and it's one of the issues is getting the product to the restaurant, and that can be a challenge sometimes. So I've kind of limited it to just the restaurants here locally.
Sure, and the others can get it at the farmers market. I'm
yes,
sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of preparation, Brussels sprouts, what's your favorite way to have them?
Brussels sprouts, I like them, oh gosh, I like them almost any way. Probably roasted with a roast and some garnish with Brussels sprouts. I love that.
Nice. And what about the artichokes?
The artichokes, I love the baby artichokes, sautéed in olive oil and garlic, and that's probably my favorite.
Great.
The little ones.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us here today and inviting us out on your beautiful acreage, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I'm Ann LeClaire. Welcome to San Mateo County's show, As Fresh as It Gets. We're looking at all different kinds of farming today. We've just looked actually at Giusti Farms, a very traditional farm on the coast side. We took a look at Harley Farms, a goat dairy, and now we're going to look at a very unusual farm, Ouroboros Farms. I'm joined today by Ken Armstrong, the founder and head of Ouroboros Farms. Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So how does your farm differ from a traditional farm?
Our farm differs from a traditional farm, and we actually have an aquaponics farm. Aquaponics is the marriage of hydroponics and aquaculture. Aquaculture, the raising of fish, and hydroponics, the growing of plants and water. So we've created a synergistic system where we have fish, which provide the main fertilizer and nutrients for our plants. The plants then take up that nutrient-rich water and clean the water, which then returns to the fish tank. So it's a completely closed-loop system.
I see. And so it's cleaner than hydroponics, would you say?
Yes,
Because
much cleaner than hydroponics. In the sense that with hydroponics, you have to add external fertilizers into the water, and eventually the toxins build up in the water. You have to flush all the water out and start over from the beginning. With aquaponics, the plants and the fish work together, so we never have to dump water, we only add water to our system. So one of the neat things about aquaponics and one of the benefits is it uses 90% less water than traditional soil farming. So it is one of the things where the resources, it's a really good use of resources for farming.
So Ken, when did you found Ouroboros Farms, and why did you do it?
We founded Ouroboros Farms on June 1st of 2012, so we've been in business just a little bit over a year. And the reason I started Ouroboros Farms is I became very aware of what I was putting in my body, the nature of food, how long it takes to travel from the farm to the grocery store, and I really wanted to be a farmer and to grow my own food and know where it came from and provide both for myself, for my family, and also for my community.
Now you're in Pescadero, is that right?
Yes, we're in Pescadero.
I mean, so there's no dirt involved. Is it in greenhouses, or how does it work?
Yeah, we're in a greenhouse complex. Mazzanti Carnations is the place where we're renting greenhouse space from. The whole complex is about 6.5 acres, and we're growing currently on about a half an acre worth of space.
Wow. So what do you grow in that half an acre?
Most leafy greens are the main staple of an aquaponic system, but we grow about 10 different varieties of lettuce, about 6 different varieties of tomatoes, a variety of basils. We have a purple opal basil, Genovese basil, Thai basil. We also grow kales, about 5 different varieties of kales, mustard greens, a variety of herbs, cilantro, parsley, thyme, oregano.
Does this mean you grow it year-round? Do you have these crops year-round?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So
there are certain crops that are seasonal. For instance, tomatoes. This is the main tomato season. We'll find out next winter. We're going to try to build a system whereby we can keep our tomatoes growing. But there are certain seasonal crops that won't grow in the wintertime, even in a greenhouse.
So let me ask a basic learner's question here. With traditional farming, you put a seed in the ground, you cover it with dirt, you water it, you fertilize it, and the plant comes up. How do you start a plant when you use aquaponics?
Okay. Well, we have a nursery area, so we use these little plugs. They're plugs that are made out of root bark, worm castings, and peat moss, and a polymer that holds them together. So we seed directly in those plugs in our nursery area, and then once the seedlings come up, then we transfer those plugs into a raft. It's a polystyrene raft, a food-grade polystyrene raft that's 2 feet by 4 feet, and either has 18 or 28 holes in it, depending on what sort of planting density we wish. And then that raft then goes into our system, whereby it floats along these troughs. We have troughs that are called deep water culture troughs. They're 4 feet wide and 96 feet long, and so we can float about 48 rafts in one of these systems. So we plant at one end, the small little seedlings, and then we harvest the other, and the rafts just move along the water.
Now, is this ever open to the public? I know you're a private operation. Is it ever available for people to see it?
Yes, we do open farm tours the first Saturday of every month from 10 to 12, and we charge $10 for that. There is also the option of doing private tours. We do private tours during not on those Saturdays, and people can call us and arrange to have those tours if they wish.
So one of the first things I thought about in terms of a couple of things. One is you never get a farmer's tan, right? You're always working in the greenhouse,
That's
so
true.
you don't get the same level of color that real farmers do or other farmers do.
That's true.
What about pests? Do you get garden pests if it's aquaponics? Or?
We do. Yeah, there are still pests that we have to deal with. The one type of pest that we usually don't run into are ones that need a soil medium in order to propagate one of their life stages. We do aphids and some whiteflies are traditional pests that we deal with. One of our theories and our purposes here is we want to be as environmentally responsible as possible. So we actually don't spray anything on our plants for two reasons. One, with aquaponics, because of the very nature of the system and having to grow fish together with the plants, we're very limited in the number of external fertilizers or pesticides that we can add into our system, because you add the wrong thing and it can actually harm our fish.
Right, okay.
So another one of the advantages of aquaponics is we like to say we have purity inspectors on site 24/7 in the name of our fish, because if we add something that puts the system out of balance, then the fish or something, or we're going to notice the suffering in the fish.
Now, is aquaponics, is it a growing trend? Do you see it as a trend for the future? I was familiar with hydroponics only until actually hearing about your farm.
Yeah, I honestly believe it is a growing trend for the future. With the advantage of aquaponics, and the advantage of aquaponics is you can grow more densely, faster, with fewer resources. And in a world where resources are becoming scarce, particularly water resources, and people are very conscientious about the time it takes for their produce to get to market, and the number of resources going in, and the nature of seeds, and the pesticides and stuff that are used, there are certainly a lot of advantages with aquaponics that I think are going to be, I like to call it the evolution of farming. It's how farming is moving to provide more with fewer resources.
And what about the quality of the produce itself? I mean, what do you say to someone who says, well, how does this lettuce differ from lettuce from a traditional farm, let's say?
What we like to say is we grow pure food. I honestly believe that the food we grow is as pure as you can get, as opposed to if it was growing naturally in nature, would have that level of purity. Because of the limited inputs we're allowed to put in the system as far as pesticides or fertilizers, there's the only real fertilizer that goes in our system is the fish food. And the fish food then gets digested by the fish and then becomes the nutrients for the plants. So we do use an organic fish food. There's only one, as far as we know, one organic fish food out in the country. And we believe because the fish are the engine of our growth, the better the stuff that goes in, the better the stuff that comes out. So we try to keep along those lines and keep our food as pure as possible.
So what about how people are able to buy your product? Do you have a farm stand? Do you sell purely through the farmers markets?
Right now we're doing 2 farmers markets. We're at CSM on Saturdays, and we're also doing the San Carlos Hot Harvest Nights here in Laurel Street in San Carlos. We also do sell to some restaurants.
Okay. So what about distribution? I mean, if a restaurant were interested, would the person just call you directly to schedule that?
Yep. The restaurant can can call me directly and arrange. We really very much like the chefs to actually come out to site and actually see the farm and see what we're capable of, and also to develop that personal relationship. We're big believers in know your farm and know your farmer, and if you can have that personal relationship with chefs, one of the benefits of aquaponics too in the nature of our system is we can custom grow. So when they come out and see our system and see how it's built, we can say, okay, this space, we want to build this space for you. So you tell us what you want to grow. It takes 6 to 8 weeks from seed until the harvest of the plant, so we can fit chefs' needs both for maybe items they have difficulty finding, or off-season items that would be available to be grown in a greenhouse.
So Ken, how many fish do you have to have on site, and what types of fish are they? Does it matter?
It doesn't really matter what type of fish.
People are going to bring you all their old goldfish that kids think.
No, goldfish, you need something a little bit bigger for the size of our system is. But with backyard systems, if you want to build your own system in the backyard, goldfish are a great fish to work with. We have 3 separate systems within the greenhouse. We call them the green, the blue, and the purple system. They're each approximately about 20,000 gallons worth of water in each of the systems. In our green system, we have 800 triploid Asian carp, which are a sterile form of carp. And in the blue and the purple systems, we have about 800 channel catfish.
Interesting.
We chose those type of fish because they're a very hardy fish. When an aquaponic system gets started, it takes a little while for it to find its balance, anywhere from 6 months to a year for the system to mature. And in that time, there can be certain environmental swings. Eventually, we'd like to get to trout. Trout would be, or barramundi, or what we're looking for as we expand. But those fish are a little bit more environmentally sensitive. And so when we started, we wanted a fish that was a little bit hardier, that could survive temperature swings or pH swings or things that naturally occur in an aquaponic system as it's maturing.
Great. Well, Ken, thank you so much for being with us today. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers did too. Thank you.
Fantastic. It was my pleasure.